On program.
On program. Hands on head, eyes front, feet on the floor. Do it.
You two, on program now.
On program.
Now.
Do it.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
On program.
I suggest we use this.
On program now.
This is where the fun begins. On program.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're live. We are live. It's working. I hope so. This is on program. This is going to be a good one. We got a great show lined up for you today. It's our first live discussion. We're glad you're here joining us. We're going to be talking about Ahsoka, the live show that's coming up. Plus, we got some big announcements about the platform. We've been doing this for a little while now. Had a time to get acclimated, and we know what we want this to be. So we're going to roll out some big changes for you here. Got a heck of a panel to do it with me today. Joining us is Andy Mason.
Hi.
Got Michael B.
Hey.
And last but not least, Eric B.
What's going on, gang?
This one's going to be a lot of fun. Let's dive right in. Pull up the thumbnail here. Let's get rolling. Ahsoka's coming out August. They released the actual date. I think it's August 23rd. Spot check me if I'm mistaken on that. But yeah, it's going to be 8 episodes as per the norm. Dave Filoni's written the whole thing, and I couldn't be more excited. I'm counting down the days. So today we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about some crackpot theories, who we hope is going to show up, any little controversies we've got hanging around this one, what our thoughts are, what we're excited about, some of the things, transitioning to live action, some of the hiccups there, who we think is going to appear, and then of course, leading into just what we think of the castings and all this sort of stuff. So let's get started. I want to get everybody's initial thoughts, and we'll just go down the list here. Eric, let me know what you're thinking about this show.
Well, obviously, I'm really excited about it. I was impressed with Rosario Dawson in the live-action Ahsoka in both seasons of the Mandalorian there, and just the way Rebels ended with some pretty hefty cliffhangers. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. On the backside of it of Rebels, there's a lot of content to pull from in the expanded universe, or what was the expanded universe. So I think there's some great opportunity to see some really interesting things, come to life before our eyes that maybe we'd only thought about before or read about before.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's where a lot of the theories are going to come in. I mean, my Legends knowledge is bubbling. I keep thinking, man, I'm so excited to see if some of these things will happen. Obviously, I'm a major Thrawn stan. I even got my water bottle here. Thrawn election. He couldn't ask for a better supreme leader. I'm very excited. I'm even donning a little Imperial swag today. It's not a Grand Admiral jacket, but I'm hype all the same. Michael B., what are you thinking? What are you excited about for this show?
I don't know that when she was first introduced, I really warmed up to Ahsoka, but
Your audio's chopping in and out. We'll get back to you in a second. Oh wait, no, it seems like you're back. Or let's see. Are you back?
Check.
Testing. Hey, I think we got you. So
good.
when you said the character or the actor, who were you? Who
the character. So
okay.
when Ahsoka was first introduced, right, we had that Clone Wars movie, and then we had the first couple seasons of Clone Wars, and it was rough, I think. But she grows on you, right? She grows as a character, and she found her place in the universe and in the Star Wars saga that she wasn't really there before. They totally inserted her, and they seamlessly wove her in to the story. And so I'm excited to see more of that through this series. See her kind of seamlessly woven through the events we already know that are going to happen. Honestly, I think that's going to be a theme of kind of her character, is that the fact that she's woven through this story so interestingly.
That's a really good point, because you're exactly right. When we were watching the Clone Wars, I remember when it was coming out, I was like, this is cool, but how are they going to kill her off before Revenge of the Sith? And then, and then that, of course, didn't happen. And they, like you said, wove her seamlessly into it. Then it was like, oh, well, she's got to die by by Return of the Jedi, and
I thought
now
that
we
was a
know.
rumor too. Like I thought that was an understanding between Filoni and Lucas that he only let that Lucas only let Filoni put this character in if she was dead by episode 3. I don't know if I heard this somewhere or not, or I made it up, but I thought for sure that was some sort of understanding, so that when she presumably left, when Disney bought Star Wars and they ended the series, it kind of was like, oh, this is a nice out. They don't have to kill her off. Okay, we're good. Obviously, there's
Huh.
more to that story, but that's kind of where I thought that went. So I need to do more research and see if I'm totally crazy, just made that up, or if there was some sort of interview that indicated that was the case.
Yeah, I'm curious because I haven't heard that either. It makes sense, but also, this is one of those things where corroboration would be nice. But okay, so Andy, I want to bring you in now. We've been jabberjawing a little bit. What are your initial thoughts, and what are you excited for before we dive into this?
Well, first, I had a question for Michael because I hadn't heard about that rumor that you said. Did that at all influence your attachment to Ahsoka's character, knowing that she would die before episode 3?
I did actually just do a quick Google search, and it seems like at very least Lucas was in the Ahsoka needs to die camp. Whether or not he actually enforced anything on that, that was sort of his mentality about it. But yeah, I think it made me care less about her annoyance in episode 1, 2, or seasons 1 through 3 ish. The whole Snips and Sky Guy thing really turned me off from the series, and until they sort of resolved that and the characters grew up a little bit. At that point, I was like, okay, no, she's cool. And then later on, when you get closer, I'm like, man, this is gonna be really sad when she finally bites the dust. Like, I'm actually gonna miss this character. She's pretty cool now. So yeah, definitely through my optic of like where she needed to be by episode 3, definitely changed my thoughts on the ending of Clone Wars, and then the ending and ending and ending, because they kind of did that multiple times. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious because my introduction to Ahsoka, I think, was different from everyone's here. I saw her first live action on The Mandalorian. I had never seen the Clone Wars. And
That's
I
wild.
thought yeah, and I thought this character's super cool. My husband has been wanting me to watch the Clone Wars, but I've like decided it's too nerdy. I can't get into it. But I liked her enough to try it, and I'm so glad I did because I loved all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. And Ahsoka is kind of, I don't know, one of the big reasons I love Star Wars. And yeah, some of the earlier seasons probably would be a little more difficult to watch now that we've seen her fully developed, and she's captured our attention and in some of our hearts. So I'm super excited to see her story continue in the Ahsoka show. And I recently finished Rebels, so I'm
Ooh,
dying
okay.
to see more of the story. I've not waited as long as other people have, but
Honestly, lucky.
I'm just yeah, I'm excited all the same.
Man, that's wild. You're jumping straight from the finale within like 2 months. You're gonna get the. You're lucky. You're lucky. I'm very, I'm very, very jealous.
Yeah,
We're all having to do a rewatch or a refresher to get hype again. That's wild. All right, moving on. Let's jump over to some controversy. Michael, I know that we had talked before something about the transition to live action, right? From animation to live action, there's always some sticking points, and there've been high points and low points. I think Zeb from The Mandalorian was an absolute gem. I think they nailed it. He was perfect. There's some other ones too. I think some of the ones that kind of stick the landing, but not quite, would be Cad Bane. I think seeing him was stellar, even though there are some people that had some misgivings about it, and fair enough. I wouldn't have minded if he looked a little closer to live action or to the animation, but I found him acceptable. But then you move over into some of the ones that make you kind of roll your eyes a little bit, like the Grand Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother from Obi-Wan, and it's kind of a challenge. You love these things, you're very excited to see them in live action, and you're glad that the canon is incorporating all the wider elements. So I'm grateful for that, and I never want to lose that. But you still have to call balls and strikes when you see these things. So what I want to do now is kind of shift over to the discussion revolving around her head tails, you know, the Leku for Ahsoka. When Rebels finishes, she's full shock T. You know, she's got the long tendrils, the horns. I'm not sure the exact wording of it, but the top part of her Leku stand real tall.
In
And then of
Montrose.
course when you Montrals, yeah, thank you. Then when you see her live in The Mandalorian, it's very, very short. So I guess, what do you guys think? We'll go around the room. How much does this bother you on a scale of 1 to 10? And you know, what are you hoping to see in this show? Do you think they're, you know, we've seen in the trailers they've lengthened it some. Are you satisfied with what they've accomplished, or is this going to be a big sticking point for you? I'll start with you, Eric, and then Michael, and then Andy.
You know, I wouldn't call it a sticking point. Obviously, being a fan of the show and a fan of the species, and the characters that have been portrayed before this, you'd like to see some consistency with age to the length of the Laku and the head, the rest of the headdress, so to speak. Um, so with that, as a fan, you kind of clue in on these details and you kind of develop really quick opinions about them. So I'll just say disappointed. I'm sure the creators are aware of it, and I'm sure there's a perfectly legit reason why live action Ahsoka has, the Laku, which are more indicative of maybe a preteen or a teenaged Ahsoka. And there's probably some practical reason for that. But I'm just grateful to have a quality, actress in Rosario Dawson carrying the Ahsoka character forward.
Absolutely.
And I'm willing to not get wrapped around those small detail issues, at least in my own opinion. But obviously, you kind of key on the inconsistencies pretty quickly.
Yeah, fair enough. So scale of 1 to 10, how much does it bug you? How much did it eat your lunch?
Um, Actually, I'll be honest with you. This eats my lunch less than Cad Bane, with the fuller, chunkier face, and the Grand Inquisitor as well. Um, and I don't know why that is. I don't have a good reason for you to say that, but um, I think overall, I'm just more concerned about the character and the vibe being
Mm,
right with
mhm.
Ahsoka than I am maybe with some of the trappings and the special effects and or the makeup that go along with putting that character together.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Still notice didn't get a 1 out of 10 there, but we'll move on. Politician. Michael, what do
Okay,
you
I'm
got?
sorry. I didn't mean to I didn't mean to let you
All
down,
right.
Ed.
All right, yeah.
I'm gonna give it a solid 6. Okay, I'm a beyond 51% of that. So
Dang. Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing it home.
no problem.
All right, Michael, go ahead.
I have a lot of thoughts about this one. I'm actually with Eric, at least on the whole, that I think Cad Bane and Grand Inquisitor are more of a problem. But what I'm less bothered by Ahsoka's appearance in live action versus her cartoon appearance, and more bothered by how different she looks like from her species within the cartoon itself. Right? We have multiple episodes where we see Ahsoka next to other Togruta and Shakti, who's really the only like constant presence we
Mhm.
see, and Shakti's appearance from Clone Wars to live action, I feel like, is a pretty good translation. We
Yeah.
see Ahsoka go from Clone Wars to Rebels, and there's some variants there. We see at least one episode in Clone Wars, though it's kind of a Vision sort of situation, where we see her grown up. She looks very different. The head tails are really, really long. But in there, she actually looks an awful lot like a normal Togruta, the way that they tend to kind of grow out and long and, all sorts of different directions and things. So I'm more weirded out that Ahsoka doesn't look like Shakti and all the other Togruta we've seen in Star Wars media, less than she doesn't look as much like, they didn't keep the head tails consistent. And to Eric's point, I know they've talked about in some, I think is the galleries or something, one of the reasons why they did them shorter was, at least their claim was, that it was easier for practical effects for her to be doing flipping and kicking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It, with
And
the,
and
with
I
the
heard
profuse
Rosario
use,
Dawson as well. Like I heard
no, she
for
didn't want to do it.
her, yeah, like for her acting, like it was easier for her, and she's getting more accustomed, and that's why they're a little longer.
Yeah.
But and in fairness to that argument, you look at Shakti in the original movies. I mean, she is very stoic. She doesn't
I
do a
mean,
whole lot.
but then you
So
see like Ula in episode 6, right? And they've had head tails moving around, flopping around for a while, and that wasn't in that case, as much as we saw, was not exactly game breaking. The practical effects, I'm just saying, Star Wars pushes the budget on those sorts of things. I think that's kind of a poor excuse. My guess, if I had to, before hearing that, would have been that this was actually more of a corporate call, that people wanted her to have this same very recognizable silhouette. And if they changed that too much, and they transferred her from her cartoon appearance and drastically changed her to make her look so much like Shakti in the live action, people would have had a hard time with that character recognition. So I think it was more of a design choice. But again, I have a lot less problem with that because she already looked different. So I think for consistency's sake, the variance between the art styles in Clone Wars and Rebels, I'm like, whatever, somewhere in between. They're longer now. I like it better. Much bigger problems with Cad Bane and Grand Inquisitor, not because of the transition from cartoon to live action, but because we've already seen those species in live action. So we've seen those species in live action, we've seen those species in the cartoon, so we actually have a fair metric to see how different they should look. And those particular characters look vastly different. That would be my biggest thing. So this is more like a 2 for me, 2 out of 10, how much I care. Cad Bane and Grand Inquisitor much, much higher on the heartburn scale for me. We've seen Duros, we've seen the Powans, we've seen those in live action. And even if there's some variance between species, right, these are still representative of those. So yeah.
And look,
not so much.
I do want to bring Andy in here as well, but I will say Cad Bane for me is like a 4, and the Grand Inquisitor was like an 8, right? So they're both to the right of Ahsoka for me, but there is a big disparity between those two. But Andy, heck, we've been rolling. What do you think about this whole thing, and what's your 1 to 10 rank?
Well, first I want to clarify, what is a 10? Is a 10 like annoyed, or is a 10 like actually mad?
10, I'm so mad. This is eating my lunch. It's pissing me off. 1 is like, doesn't bother me at all. Do what you need to do.
Okay. Okay. Then it's maybe like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. Because
Dig it.
I do get attached to these characters and their development, and you could say that the length of the Leku is symbolic of her age and her wisdom, the things that she's learned and all that she's achieved. Maybe you could say that, maybe not.
Mhm.
Um, I did love to see her in Rebels with her long Leku, but it didn't bother me on first watch because, as I said before, my first glance at Ahsoka was live action, so I didn't get that like gut punch of why does she look like that? That's just how I thought she looked. But from where I am now, I do wish they were longer. I wish it was a little more consistent. I feel like Star Wars is really great about consistency, for the most part. That's just my opinion, maybe.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Um, and I've read the same thing, that it was for mobility, and I don't know. I don't know if that answer satisfies me. We've seen Star Wars do some really amazing stuff with visuals, and things of that nature. So yeah, 3 or maybe a 4 out of 10. It bums me out, but it's not the biggest deal, I guess.
Yeah,
Is her
I think
lightsaber blade coming
that's
out
fair.
crooked right there? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the image, but the one in her backhand, the blade looks like it's coming out the wrong direction.
It
I don't know. Her handles are a
it
little curved, but it really looks like it's angled the wrong promotional image.
it
Sorry,
does look a
distracted.
little weird.
Squirrel.
In fairness, they use practical lightsabers now, so I would assume they would animate based off of the angle that the tube presented, but maybe not. Maybe I'm mistaken. I wouldn't put it past them. It's not like they've ever airbrushed a photo before, so yeah. No, it's interesting. A lot of the images we're getting are coming from this Empire magazine. They've been, putting out a lot of the PR stunts are coming. They're getting it rolling. But yeah, so what we know about the show is it's going to be a continuation of Rebels, basically, right? We're looking for Ezra. We're trying to find him because we're trying to find Thrawn. That was the goosebumps moment that I got when we were watching Mandalorian. I was watching it with my parents, I remember, and she's fighting Morgan Elsbeth in the Mandalorian, and she says, "Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?" And I just like yelped. I just kind of, squealed. And, my dad, who was kind enough to watch this with me, but doesn't really care, looked over and was just kind of wondering, what the heck I was doing. But I said, look, I don't know how to explain this to you, but I'm losing my mind. This is awesome, because I knew that he had to have been the big bad that we were building towards. And I'm so absolutely excited. Ahsoka, great. Show up. I can't wait to see you and have an awesome show. But Thrawn is the reason why I'm tuning in. I cannot wait.
And I would have paid good money. I would have paid good money to be a fly on the wall and watch you and your dad in that moment. I'm serious. One, I would love to have seen your reaction to it, because I know how much you enjoy the character. But then to see you and your dad share that moment together and the vastly different approaches to it, knowing the both of you, I think that would have been, that would have been
Yeah.
great.
So basically, what I said was I paused it right then. So I went, yo, whoa, what? And then so I stop it and I say, and they're like, what's going on? And I was like, okay, okay, all right, hold on. So Thrawn is a guy from the books. It's this really big character. He's been there for 20 years, but no one knows who he is. But he's like my favorite character of all Star Wars. I'm so excited. I can't wait. But basically, if I had to describe him, he's like Sherlock Holmes meets Erwin Rommel. Like a bad guy, but not like this evil, total, horrible monster. Has some redeeming qualities, but still very much a bad guy and very much fighting for the wrong side. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. He's like Moriarty. He's Holmes. I'm so excited. That's pretty much how it went down. And my dad just kind of, backed away slowly and said, hey, I'm happy for you, bud.
I can
But
totally
yeah.
see his response to that based on your description.
But yeah, it was awesome, and that will pale in comparison to how excited I'll be when I see him. I cannot wait. Sometimes just to feel something, I'll go back and watch the celebration video when they unveiled him in Rebels for the first time, and just the whole auditorium just erupts. It was in Celebration London. I want to say it was like 2014, 15, I can't remember, but everybody just lost their minds, and I would have if I was there, and so I definitely wish I could have been. But yeah, so Thrawn absolutely is what I'm most excited for. But we know we're gonna get Sabine, live action Sabine. Let me pull that up. And she's gonna have Ezra's lightsaber. That's what we've seen from the trailer. So very very excited for that. Um, Andy, who are you most excited for with these transition to live action? Seeing Sabine, seeing Harrison Dula, and some of the other folks. Like, what are you most excited for? And are there any crackpot theories of people that we haven't seen yet that you think might show up?
Oh, well, with Rebels fresh on my mind, one of the things that amazed me the most was how much all of the characters grew on me. I mean, in the beginning, even watching Ezra on screen, I'm kind of like, oh, not exactly falling in love with this character, but by the end, it's a totally different story. I would love to see Ezra. Hera is a hero of mine. But Sabine and Rex, they're all cool. It's hard to pick just a couple because I'd love to see the whole gang.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I know Michael, you had thrown up in the chat earlier that Rex was the one you were super hyped for. Tell me about that. What are you hoping for?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to see them further establish his character and his presence in Episode 6 as the sort of interesting retcon. I don't think anybody's really complaining about. I think it'd be really cool to see. I think we've already heard that Tim Emerson will be playing Rex, so as far as we're concerned, he's going to be in it. To what degree? Better hope that he doesn't die. That would be
Yeah.
heartbreaking, but they're going to have to do something to make you care about the show at some point. Yeah, but I'm really excited. I think we haven't got to see Tim Emerson really play a clone more than Boba Fett in live action with any amount of character, and so bridging the gap between D. Bradley Baker's kind of Captain Rex and then Tim Emerson, that'll be really cool to see that how well that meshes.
Yeah, absolutely. I am extremely excited. I've been one of the ones that was championing the retcon for the folk on Endor from day one, and when they actually tailored his appearance to look like that guy, like we talked about in the Return of the Jedi special, I was hooting and hollering. That was something I was very very excited about. So getting to see
They
him in
had him
live
appear in
action is going to be really cool. Go ahead.
the Galaxy of Heroes shorts too. I think that's the one that I'm thinking of, where
Yes.
they had
Yep.
him
Yep.
actually straight up appear, and they had an exact appearance of him as Endor, except they gave him some little blue on his gauntlets, which was like just a
Hmm.
nice little touch to prove, yes, this is right.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the whole gang. I mean, we already brought Zeb back in the Mandalorian, so to the extent that it works, we'll probably stop by on geez, what is that planet? It's not Aldani. I always get it wrong. I got it wrong on the last episode. Adelphi. Adelphi. The Adelphi Rangers. They'll probably see him there. That would be we lost Michael. We lost Michael. He'll come back. That's the joy of being live, folks. Welcome back, Michael. What do you guys think about Callus? You're still muted, Michael. Turn on when you can. What about Callus? Andy, I'll kick it over to you. You hoping to see him, and what do you think the likelihood is?
Oh, I'd love to see him. Um, I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up too much and seeing absolutely everyone squeezed in there. I'm not sure what
True.
exactly what the likelihood is. Um, he's lower on my list of characters I'm excited about, but it was cool to see his character grow, his relationship with Zeb, seeing them go from enemies on the ice planet to forming a bond over Zeb's home planet that he helped bring back together. So excited to see. Not sure the likelihood though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's lower quartile for sure, especially with everything else the show has to do. But the one area where I think it helps his case is the connection to Thrawn, given that, before he defected, he did still interact with Thrawn. As an aside, that episode through Imperial Eyes is probably one of my favorites of Rebels, just seeing him interact with Thrawn and how it starts in first person. That was very, very cool. So I don't know if they'll interact in some way. Maybe he's doing some sort of a deep cover or can do a behind enemy lines type situation. I'm not sure. But really I'm just spinning my wheels because the thing I'm most excited for is Thrawn. I cannot wait. Lars Mikkelsen, and I'm so excited. But Eric, what do you think? Are there any characters that you're excited to see, that you think, any crackpot theories, or anyone you don't want to see?
Definitely. No, definitely. I'm excited to see Chopper and seeing him in live action. Just because that he's not your typical droid. There's a lot more personality there,
True.
a lot more mischievousness and hijinks. So I'm excited for that. I've always been a big fan of Zeb out of Rebels. I love the character of Zeb. I thought Zeb was the backbone of the group. Um, when you went through the Rebels story arc, but my crackpot theory, what I would desperately like to see, and this is very typical for Star Wars with these kind of flashback moments and characters. I'd love to see Kanan Jarrus make a visit. When you talk about Ahsoka, you talk about a Jedi. We're searching for another, Jedi apprentice or what. I don't know what the status of Ezra is. Then you have the two dark Jedi or the gray Jedi characters with the red lightsabers. You've got the Inquisitor that we've seen a picture of. Um, there are moments there in which Kanan could make, if we go deep into Ahsoka, who's kind of wrestling maybe with the Force in this series, and where it's going, and its utility, and the things that we kind of got touched on. We got teased with it a little bit in the Mandalorian, but it'd be great to see. I'd rather see Kanan Jarrus than see Luke come back. To be perfectly honest with you,
Mm,
only because if the whole crew is going to be represented, and I'm not talking about building an episode around Kanan Jarrus, but to see Hera reflect back, or maybe Hera and Ahsoka have a moment when they're talking about the Force and the rebellion. I mean, there's things that are going on here in which you could absolutely have, a quick 15, 20, 30-second little appearance of that character and have it be completely meaningful. And I'm not one to say, hey, I want to see everybody. I don't need Easter eggs for the sake of Easter eggs, but
sure. Yeah.
um, I think Kanan, when if the Force is going to be a part of the Ahsoka storyline, I think Kanan could very well contribute to that more than any other Jedi that we've seen associated with
True.
Rebels.
That's a great one. I hadn't thought about it, and I know Andy, I saw you chomping at the bit a little bit. If you got something you want to say, jump right in.
I'm so glad you brought up Kanan because I told Ed he is climbed up the ladders as one of my favorite Jedi. Um, just his story is so beautiful to watch him sort of accept himself as Caleb Doom. And the only reason I wasn't itching to see him in the show is because I think his story is told so beautifully. Um, but you make an excellent point with flashbacks and the Force that I hadn't thought of before. So yeah, I think that would be really cool, and we'd be remiss not to mention little Jason Sindula.
That's what I was. Yeah. Yep. You mentioned that to me, and that was one of the things that kind of blew my mind. It's like, I think I keep pretty up on top of this stuff, but with everything that we have gotten and all the new characters and information, Jason slipped my mind. And so when you said, "Man, it'd be cool if we see Jason," I was like, holy crap, we might. That's a very, very likely thing. I'm pretty excited about that one. That will be very interesting.
I think the timeline supports seeing him either as a as a young boy or maybe even a preteen. Maybe preteen's too far, but certainly more than a toddler, right?
Sure.
He should
maybe
be
someone
like
of closer to
12 maybe around this
maybe
time. We
someone
don't
closer
really
to
know.
Ezra's
Well,
age when we first got exposed to Ezra. Maybe that's something that we could see there. But I think if we see him, we'll definitely see at least a token connection to Jason. I mean, not Jason, but
Sure.
to Kanan come back.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And it's interesting because we talked about the two mysterious Jedi-esque figures, with Ray Stevenson's passing and everything. It's going to be an interesting dynamic there for sure. Because they've released the names of these characters and they're escaping me right now, but they're very clearly different. They've made that very clear with the orange lightsabers. They look almost like folks out of time, and you're not really sure what they're doing there or where they come from. I wonder if they're going to have some sort of spiritual connection to what came before with Timothy Zahn, sort of like a Jerua Sabayoth sort of thing. Because if you're here, I'll throw back over to the content here. We've gotten Mount Tantus in the Bad Batch. So for those of the uninitiated, Mount Tantus being in the Bad Batch was a huge deal. It's on the planet Wayland, and it's from the Thrawn trilogy, a very big part of it. This is one of the Emperor's stockpiles. They had a bunch of secret projects going on over there. And Thrawn ends up using a lot of this stuff to affect his return, cloning and all kinds of different technology that was hidden within these warehouses. And they were influenced. You had Jerua Sabayoth, an old Jedi master who was cloned and turned to the dark side, and he was the one that Thrawn worked with. And so I kind of wonder if I can't remember the character's name. Is it Balon? Anyone help me out if you know it.
Yeah,
Um,
Balin, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, if he's connected in some way, that'll be very interesting to see. I'm very curious if there's a Mount Tantus connection, or if that's where we're building. Maybe that'll be the big Thanos reveal at the end of the show, and that's Filoni's movie. Who knows? What
Yeah,
do you guys think?
well, I think my weird theory on those two characters is, it'd be great. It'd be interesting um, if they were inquisitors in training who escaped, and now they're just running the world. They're kind of neither in the dark nor the light, and something in between. I don't know. I don't have any basis for that thought, but um, it'd be interesting if that'd be an interesting turn of events to me, I think.
Yeah, certainly possible. I know people have also been kicking around the idea of the bringing back the world between worlds, which I don't know. Oh, well, look, let's gauge the room, right? What are everybody's thoughts on the world between worlds? This time I'll start with you, Andy, since it's fresh in your brain. What do you think, and do you want to see it here?
Yeah, I would love to see it. And I don't actually know the general opinion on the world between worlds, but I totally liked it. usually time travel and things like that in TV shows kind of it's too much for me. I don't get it. I really loved how they did it in Rebels. It made sense to me. And seeing Ahsoka get saved by Ezra, and then watching Ezra having to watch Kanan die again, it was heart wrenching, gut wrenching, and it actually it made sense to me, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% that it was awesome in Rebels. But I remember when Michael and I saw it, we were talking at the time like, dude, I don't know. This is dangerous stuff here. Like, it was cool because it was in an old Jedi temple. The temple blew up. You had to have like magic wolves run around in circles around the earth and all kinds of stuff. There was there was a mural with the father and the son and the daughter that was there. Like, there were all kinds of ways to get there, and it was super tough. And Sidious was trying to get there and he couldn't. And there's all this different stuff, right? And I'm very I'm very worried if we just sort of whimsically go back there and bring characters in from the old Republic or something like that. I'm apprehensive for sure. But Michael, you were the other half of those conversations back in the day. So what do you think?
Oh boy. Uh so to me, time travel, right, is the one thing, or has been the one thing, that Star Wars hasn't done. It's the one thing that really separates it from Star Trek and some of these other sci-fi series. Um Star Trek, every other movie is about time travel, honestly. And the implications of, and all sorts of things. Now, Star Trek doesn't get too much into the multiverse, but obviously Marvel does. To me, on one hand, I agree it was an interesting concept. I like what Ed said. There was a lot of limitations and things around it. Even if you had to bring it in as even something that's possible in the Star Wars universe, at least they did a good job of making it seem like this wasn't something that was just going to be, oh, everyone's going to use time travel. Um, and it didn't even necessarily seem like, I don't know, they didn't really talk about the paradoxes and complications of pulling Ahsoka out and putting her back and exactly how all that worked. So there's plenty of room to explore it, but I'm really worried that the world between worlds is going to become the linchpin for Star Wars canon. As much as I've joked that if they do introduce the proper multiverse in Star Wars, I will then go back and read all the Legends books that Ed is required. So on one hand, Ed's probably rooting for that. But on the other hand, I think this is the potential for making Star Wars canon less consistent again. Like, before Disney took over, whatever you're going to say about Disney and their handling of Star Wars, they've made everything consistent now. There's no contradictions. There's no side quests that had to happen within other side quests and side quests to make them all happen at the same time. So they've kind of wiped the slate clean. If they reintroduce this for, to monetize it, basically, if we start getting the Star Wars What If series, which I've heard people wondering if maybe Ahsoka was going to be a Star Wars What If series. I've heard some rumors and seen some potential set leaks and things that might indicate that might be something, or flashbacks or something. If they use the world between worlds to do that, I'm not about it. I don't mind them showing it to some degree, or maybe having it be like a base of operations where she can kind of go and look and see what's going on in the universe. But or maybe through meditation or something. But I think using it to actually travel between timelines and multiverses, I don't want Star Wars to get into it. I'll be there for it when it happens, but I'm not my preference.
I'm telling you, man, this one will very likely get weird, though. I mean, in The Mandalorian, seeing the Purrgil, like, Filoni is not going to shy away from any bit of that. It looks like we're really diving in, and we're really going to get Lucasy, and, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm apprehensive, to say the least. I enjoyed it well enough in Rebels, but it was because it was animation. And I was just like, hey, thank you, Dave Filoni, for everything. You can have your wolves. I'll support that. I love it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm very curious to see to what level Timothy Zahn and all that sort of stuff that he's been setting up with all these books are going to play in for Thrawn's motivations. These books are very expansive and they have a lot going on, and I'm perfectly prepared for it to not matter at all for Thrawn's motivations. But if it does matter, given, after Cobb Vanth, anything is possible, right? So I'm wondering, and Michael, you can speak to this with me. Do you think we'll see any Grisk hegemony or any of those sort of things?
Man.
Or even hear about it? Like, we probably won't see it. It'd probably be crazy. How do you spin someone up in 8 episodes? But, A name
I had
drop.
actually wondered. I actually wondered if that was what was happening this whole time. As much as people thought, Thrawn was going to come back in and reunite the Empire against the rebels, if instead he's got his own motivations and he comes in and people think that's what's going to happen, and instead he tries to unite the forces a different direction. And I also wondered if maybe Ezra and he were, off in unknown reaches or something. Maybe they are doing something. What have they been doing this whole time? They're together, presumably. Maybe they're off there fighting Grisk. But to that point, we've also talked about the sort of disconnect between Thrawn as we see him in Rebels and Thrawn as we got him in the new canon books, and that's not to
Yep.
mention the disconnect between him and the old series. But he's pretty vindictive and evil in the Rebel series. He's a lot more black and white, and he has some depth to his motivations, but he just seems like another pawn of the Empire in Rebels. So I had heard and seen that they were going to try to reconnect his character and personality with the books, give him back his Moriarty sense, give him back his more neutral sort of, hey, I'm working with the Empire, but that's only because that best serves my goals, not because I actually align with the Empire's goals. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'm interested
But
because
I would
I
be
kind of
mad
heard
about
the
Grisk.
opposite. I kind of heard the
Oh,
opposite
interesting.
and was worried because someone
Mm-mm.
released maybe it was just
Rumors.
a headline. I didn't read the whole thing, but
Yeah,
they said like Thrawn will be a straight villain and there's no ambiguity to it. So I
I
don't
hope
know. We'll
not.
see. Yeah, me too. Right? Like I desperately want him to be nuanced because Thrawn in the Ascendancy books is very cool, a very sympathetic, almost
He's not
quasi
about
moral
killing
character.
innocents. He's not about
Yes,
torturing.
yes. He's
Yeah.
strictly utilitarian, very pragmatic, and in a way Machiavellian, but less from a political sense and more, militaristically. But then when you move on and you see him in the original Thrawn books in the lesser space, the common galaxy, he's you see the Empire begin to corrupt him in a way. He does his best. He's playing his double game, but then you see him in Rebels, and you're kind of like, I wonder if his monologue is more justifications for his actions as opposed to anything more than that. And then you fast forward, you wonder if he's just fully lost in the sauce. And they say war make fascists of us all, right? That's
Yeah. I
the
mean,
Starship
you
Troopers
brought up
thing. So
Zahn
you never know.
too. You brought up Zahn too, and I always wonder how much Zahn is actually involved in this character. And the impressions I've been given is that not much at all, which is kind of sad.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
hope that he's involved and he's helping influence how this character goes, because as the kind of father of that character, both canonizing him and then recanonizing him, I would hope that his writing is drawn on for this for sure.
All right, so I'm gonna hit myself with the
Unprogram.
button here. We've been running all over the place, and I apologize to
Can
the
I
other
just add
two
something to
lovely
that, Ed?
people on the panel. Yes, Eric, please, by all means. I was gonna bring you
Yeah.
back in. Go
So
ahead.
no, you're everyone touching in on you're kind of in the unknown regions for me of the Star Wars universe. I'm not as well versed or in depth in those parts of the stories or the books as you two are. And there's a lot there that you brought up, and I'm sure there's even more. We could probably have an entire episode just on all of the what ifs and possibilities. Here's all I'm going to say about Ahsoka live action. It's what, 8 episodes, I think. Is that right? 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I listen. I hope it's not. I hope it's not a rush job, 1,000 miles an hour. We throw so much into it where there's no real substance because we're too busy kind of putting out eggs or teasing things for the group. I hope it sets the stage for something and probably takes a much smaller piece of what you all just articulated. And likely that happens at the end of the 8 series, season 1, and maybe that kind of sets up a season 2. But God, I surely hope we don't try. I surely hope they don't try and overdo this thing and do this, have the same issues that I think we saw with Book of Boba Fett, where it's
Yeah.
just
Or
we're just
season 3
it's
Mando.
exactly to be a case in point. But high hopes, and it'd be great to see them do some of what you just said, but do it subtly and really well, and have it
Pacing,
make sense and
pacing,
building
pacing.
to something greater.
Yeah, and look, that was me thinking, where is this all going? When I talk about the Grisk, I'm saying we might hear him say a mention of it, right? Same sort of idea. Like when Morgan Elsbeth says, or when Ahsoka says to Morgan, I'm looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Michael and I were already this far ahead, right? Trying to figure out how it's going to relate. So I'm forecasting. I know for sure I'm not going to get any of this stuff, or at least the vast majority of it. Andy, what was it like hearing us go down that rabbit hole there? I hope we can bring you back in here.
That
I'm
was my
here.
bridge to you, and that's my lifeline to you, Andy, because I'm out there. I'm out there with you.
You lost me for like a second, but I'm back. And I think moving into book club, we gotta read some Thrawn books. And by we, I mean me. I need to catch up.
I love it. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get there. Talking about what we've got coming on the show. Before we move into the big announcements and us, kind of waxing poetic about ourselves, I wanted to take a minute and go around the room and see if anyone has any recommendations for the essential Ahsoka content that we need to see before this, because we have enough time, and if we make a short list, we can do reviews. So, Andy, do you have any episodes of Ahsoka content you wanna offer up?
Like to discuss or just to name for
I
listeners
I
to
wanna
watch?
basically, yeah, you're right. Let me dive in a bit more. So basically, what I'm looking for here is to prepare for the show, the essential of the essential for Ahsoka, to get a picture of who she is, and then if there's a short enough list, maybe we as a show will watch and discuss them before the content comes out.
Okay, yeah. There's obviously the Clone Wars. It is so much of her story and is so valuable to watch. I watched it in its entirety, but I have seen lists online of essential Ahsoka episodes to watch. Um, I haven't peeked through the specifics of that, but definitely, especially towards the later seasons, seeing her growth, as well as like we discussed her story in Rebels, would be more essential for her
But
timeline.
I guess what I'm getting at is for Andy Mason, what single piece of content that you've seen makes Ahsoka to you, right? Like, what's the main thing that you just keep coming back to as her quintessential moment? What's that to you?
Okay, I get you now. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
um,
absolutely.
um, some of my favorite moments of Ahsoka are in the Clone Wars, and I think her character is defined really well by when she is disbarred from the from the Jedi Order. Seeing
Mm-hmm.
her go through that trial, seeing her Padawan braid yanked off her head, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it all, she's innocent and she chooses to walk away. um it's very special to me to watch that unfold. That's probably my favorite part of her story that defines her.
Yeah, it's hard to top that one. That was definitely on my short list as well. We'll have to revisit that arc for sure. Eric, what about you? You have any thoughts? Any other
No,
episodes?
absolutely. I agree completely with Andy. I think season 5, episode 20, the wrong Jedi, when she walks away from the Order. I think is important. If you just saw her first introduction in the Clone Wars movie, and then you started watching the live action, and you wonder how do we get from young and idealistic and to jaded in this. I think you have to kind of go back to that season 5, episode 20, and then also what I want to do is I want to go back and look into season 7 again. That four the f- of the 12 episodes, the 4 episode arc in the middle where she's in the Coruscant underworld, or she's running with the non cool kids. And as much as those two characters, the sisters, kind of annoyed me. um I feel badly that I got so wrapped in what they were doing. I wasn't paying as attention as I think I should have to what Ahsoka was going through, because I think that that's the natural progression of her from season 5, episode 20, when she leaves the Order, to now she's just kind of out in this world trying to make her way and trying to find
Citizen
her
Tom.
place. Yeah, so um, I would say those 5 episodes are probably, to me, would be the ones that I would go back before we see Ahsoka, live action start in episode 1 for her.
Damn, Eric took mine. Yeah, I thought there was like no chance that anyone was going to say the Martell sister arc, but
Ah, I couldn't
here
even
I
remember their
am,
names.
corrected. Yeah,
Ah,
no,
Ed,
I'm
I didn't mean to steal your thunder, man. Go ahead
no,
and
no,
reverse,
no.
rewind that, and I'll say something different.
No, it's all good. I love it actually. I'm usually the one that that scrapes the barrel of stuff that everyone else threw out and and says, "Hey, this is actually pretty good." So I'm very excited. I liked those episodes a good bit. Andy, we were talking about that through the week about what's the deal with why did everybody hate these episodes, and I think we need to have an episode of this podcast talking about the perks and the minuses of watching this stuff week to week versus binging, because that was a casualty of the week to week. We were all so excited about the final episodes of Clone Wars, and we wanted it to be epic and amazing like the Siege of Mandalore, which we got. But we didn't want to wait. You had the Bad Batch set up, and then you had this, and we were chomping at the bit, and I think these episodes had some really good character development. I mean, I was telling you, Eric, that's her last Jedi moment. This is her. I'm sick of the Jedi. I'm sick of the mythology. I'm sick of all of it. I'm done. Um, and she sees the weight and the impact that she can have on regular people in the galaxy, and what the Jedi mean, and how it's more than her, and it needs to she needs to live up to the legend. Even if she's not a Jedi proper, she can see what what the Force means to people, and how she needs to act. So yeah, I'm very excited to
Yeah.
revisit that arc. We'll have to do that.
Yeah, I'm
Michael,
excited
what
to see
about
her
you?
interact with Force users again. Sorry to interrupt you, but just I'm
No, no,
excited to
yeah,
see
please.
her interact with other Force users again, and kind of get us, to what we saw. Some of things that we saw very briefly in the Rebels series, where she's interacting with Inquisitors and having that light side, dark side, conversation. So I think there's more opportunities for that. Sorry, I
Absolutely.
didn't mean to
Man,
cut you off, Michael.
no, that's
No, all
okay because
good.
that reminds me of the Siege of Mandalore and her just absolutely stunning epic fight with Darth Maul. Like if we were to compare and contrast the best lightsaber fights in all of Star Wars, that would probably still be in the top 5 list, even though it's animated, even though it's a cartoon. Like that is
It's up there,
a
yeah.
fantastic, such a fantastic lightsaber fight, forced fight, right? So you're right, that is super exciting to see.
Well, it's
I
funny.
there's not,
If I could, that episode, that
yeah,
lightsaber battle, I thought I heard that there was some live action filming that they wrapped
Yeah, it was mocap.
CGI around.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. That was one of the few that was
Sorry.
mocap. Yep. Yep, absolutely
yeah.
right.
I think so. You guys have brought up a bunch of really good ones. I think it would be easy to say you need to watch all these episodes and everything. I'll take a hit from Ed and say I think the tuber, or what is it, the Parasite episode with Barriss Offee leading into the Wrong Jedi. I think that's an important sort of character development arc too, not just to see her grow as a character, but to see her friendship with Barriss, and how Barriss and Ahsoka have a similar sort of arc to Qui-Gon and Dooku almost, because they both kind of want the same thing, but they choose different paths to achieve them. And they become in conflict with one another directly, even though Qui-Gon doesn't quite live to see that. Qui-Gon would have been directly in the line of fire. So I definitely think that would be really cool to see. Go ahead, Ed.
Is that Barris?
There's no way. She's dead,
I'm
right?
so
She's
glad.
got to be
I'm so
dead.
glad you said that and I'm so glad you mentioned Barriss Offee, Michael, because if nobody did, I was going to. That she's such a cool character, and I did see rumors. Could this be Barriss? And I'll say I don't think it is, because I don't.
It's another one of those things,
Fair enough.
Eric was saying, we don't want to see just cameo after cameo after cameo. This whole
It's
series
true.
is right for all of that, but pacing is so much more important. Content and story. We have all, it's clear if they want to do the cameo, if they want to explore these unexplored areas, they'll do the Tales of the Jedi kind of thing. They'll have these shorts. They'll do
Mhm.
the content they want to show. So I'm not too worried about it. I agree. I'd rather have proper pacing and like really take your time and do this right, rather than just spend everything on fan service, as much
Yeah.
as we all like fan service.
Andor-esque, man. Follow the
Yeah.
Andor model.
Oh
Yep,
man.
yep, 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 yep.
And to Andor's point, right? My favorite thing about the best things that I see in Star Wars are the content that stands alone, right? If Ahsoka can be watched end to end, one season at a time, or just this season, without all this extra context and still enjoy it. Not to say that it doesn't add to it, right? You know, having seen Andor, there's aspects of certain characters and things where you draw and you go, oh, if you know who Mon Mothma is, if you know who these characters are, it adds to the story. But you don't have to know who they are to fully enjoy that series and to have a comprehensive, like, end-to-end understanding what happened. So that would be my hope, is that they don't rely too much on their own derivative kind of content, and you have to go and watch, as much as we would say, go watch all these things about Ahsoka. You don't have to go watch all these things about Ahsoka to be introduced to all these characters. They're going to throw at you in rapid succession in the show.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
job of making it its own thing.
Filoni said as much. He said, the biggest challenge is, making something where you don't have to watch all this extra content, but because it's on Disney Plus, it does kind of lend itself to, recirculation of some of the old stuff, and hopefully it picks up some new fans. I'm excited that you said the brainworm episode, because I'm excited to rewatch that one. I think we need to do that because when that came out, that was a victim of, again, the Cartoon Network promos. They would always run a little trailer before the next episode, and the narrator was so cringe. It said, "When you see a worm in space, don't put it in your nose." And so I remember me and Wyatt
I remember this. Oh my gosh.
clowning all over it. We're like, this is dumb, so stupid. And I'm pretty sure that it might have been a great episode. People always come back to it, but I never gave it the time of day after that. I thought it was stupid on first watch and I never revisited it. So I'm very excited to do that. That'll be awesome. The ones I would say, it's low hanging fruit after everything that everyone else has said, but the Twilight of the Apprentice and Rebels. I mean, fighting with Vader, I mean, that's just amazing. The Kenobi show kind of went back to that well, and did the mask on, mask off sort of Anakin Vader pairing, but that did it first. Rebels did it first, and it's some really, really powerful stuff, seeing their relationship. And like we said, now that we know Anakin's a Force ghost because of what Luke did, I am extremely hopeful that we'll either see Hayden come back as a Force ghost or maybe some flashbacks. That's my wish
Speaking of people we'd rather see instead of Luke, right?
Oh, amen. Anakin, yeah. 15,000 times more. Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, Hayden Christensen just did that actors on actors thing with Diego Luna too, so there's a good chance that that he'll show up. I'm very hopeful for that. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll plan out some additional content here. We're going to talk about all of those things. We'll do rewatches and dive in, and we'll upload all of those before this show comes out. We're very, very excited for that. All right, let's transition. We've beat the Ahsoka thing to death. We're real excited about it, but I want to talk now about this show. We've been doing it now. We know it works. We know the platforms here. We know everybody's having a good time. We buy the concept. And so in addition to the weekly show where we all get together and talk about what's new and what's current, Andy mentioned it earlier, I also want to announce that we're starting a deep dive show where we can dive in on some of these books and some of the extra content, and it's the On Program Book Club. We're gonna dive in. Anybody that's willing to join. Michael, I know you're gonna be there. Eric, pretty much everybody here, plus Taylor. We're gonna dive in. The first book on the list is my favorite Star Wars book, as far as just something to read. Not necessarily canon implications or importance when it came out, but just my favorite, Lost Stars. It's my comfort food. I'm so excited to share this one with you guys and discuss it. I cannot wait. Talk about my gal Sienna Rhee and Thane Kyrell. But yeah, that's the On Program Book Club. Can't wait for that one. And then also, Eric, when we started this out, we talked about what everybody uniquely brings to the show and, and to the platform. And Eric, one of your niches is the collecting. So why don't you tell me about what you want to do on the On Program Collectors Corner show?
Yeah, well, I think it's not just me, but I think Andy as well will be a part of that. And part of the Star Wars experience is all the collectibles. And so certainly, you kind of grew up. I grew up with action figures, 3 and 3/4 inch line, the 6 inch line. But there's so much more there. There's the high end cosplay and the companies that produce those, like the New and Novo. You've got dolls. You've got a whole you got maquettes and statues, high end replicas, and you have the collectibles at all the Star Wars events, pins and other things. And I know Andy's a big pin collector, and I definitely want her to talk about. I want to go over to her for a second and talk about that. But we really just want to create Andy want to create a space where people who identify and connect with Star Wars in a through collectibles. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you collect, why you collect it, when it started, how you manage that, because there is, obviously there's a certain price tag associated with that part of the Star Wars experience. And
Put it in
believe
the
me, I know it
logo
more
there.
than
Yeah.
else. But I definitely, when we have little tidbits, as I get things in, as I order things off of Hasbro Pulse or Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, or a whole bunch of other places. And as I get these things in throughout the year, I'd like to kind of just, do an unboxing or just do a review of something that I find I think is really interesting. But that's as my part of the collector's world. But Andy, over to you for your thoughts on Collector's Corner and what we're going to do with it, and where you choose to focus your efforts and your energies in the collectibles experience.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be included. I've recently got into the pin collecting, and it's a whole big wide world of not just licensed pins, but fan made pins. The possibilities
Yes.
are endless. The prices can be astronomical. um, yeah, but there's a lot of really awesome stuff. I mean, it's art. It's art to be appreciated. And if you're like me, you love to show and tell. I love to show off what I got and see what other people are collecting as well. So yeah, super excited for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. I can't wait because again, this is something where I had my heyday. I bought some toys back in the day. I have a fairly substantive collection of Episode 3 era stuff, but that hasn't been the focus of my fandom in quite some time. But I love living vicariously through you folks, so I'm excited to. Instead of more or less hosting like some of the other shows, I'm gonna just sit there and run the slides and just soak up all the content you guys
Yeah.
serve up for me. I'll be your audience. I cannot wait.
Ed, if I
And
could, real quick, just
go
on that,
ahead. Yeah.
Ed, I just want to reinforce with what we want to do with Collectors Corner is, I mean, the collectibles market, the collectibles is such an expansive thing, right? So, as people are listening to this podcast, as people find us through social media and kind of get a taste of what we do here, just because I may talk about action figures and Andy may talk about pins, doesn't mean we're not. We want to be inclusive of the entire uh, palette of the collectibles experience and market. So if you have things out there in the universe and you want to bring it to a forum like the On Program podcast, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to include you. We'd love to learn from you, and again, why you connect with Star Wars in this way.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I remember a few of my friends. I'll have to hit them up and see if we can do it on location because she had just an amazing collection. There was a ton of episode 1 marketing content. I think she had one of those. You remember those R2D2 soda coolers that they had in a lot of stores? She had that. She had a bunch of cutouts of Jar Jar and all this different stuff. So yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll have to hit you up, and if you're watching this, Stacy, I'll hit you up. That'd be cool. But in any event, that's the On Program Collectors Corner. I'll throw that logo back up one more time. You can expect that here in the next month or so, and it'll be a little while. But Wyatt Michael Sings, who you've seen on the show, brother of mine, my best friend. He's going to handle the gaming. So he's the gamer much more than I, and so he's going to be doing let's plays, and I'll be contributing lore because obviously that's not his forte. It's not the area that it calls to him. So I'll contribute the lore element, and that's going to be a lot of fun. There's no imminent games releasing right now, but when they do come out, you can find them on Program Gaming for more substantive info and deep dives, in addition to the weekly content that you've come to expect from us. So leave a comment. Let us know what you're most excited for. There's other things we're cooking as well. Pretty much this is a platform we're trying to bring people together, because I know what it's like to be a huge dork and be just all the way neck deep in this stuff and have no one to share it with. And so the point of this is to bring everybody together, and whatever part of the Star Wars fandom you find personable to you, we want to share it with you. So yeah, that's what we're all about here on Program, and thanks for stopping by, and we can't wait to see you guys next time
On Program.
She strives for the spotlight, Hollywood's new bride. She drives alone at night by the Hollywood sign, where there's creepy